There are some fighting games folks remember because they were balanced. There are these other ones that people remember them because they simply felt pretty incredible to play without any balance. Fatal Fury 2 belongs in that second group. It arrived during the golden age of the arcade fighters, when every new release was like sort of trying to stand out from the crowd, and somehow it actually managed to carve out its own identity pretty well. The larger roster, the improved controls, the unforgettable music, the stages all helped turn it into one of SNK's defining games. Even today, many longtime fighting game fans still point to it as one of the strongest enemies in the early years of the series. That's why you could say rumors about a full remake have continued circulating for almost a decade right now. So look, the first thing worth saying is that there's currently no official announcement for a Fatal Fury 2 remake. SNK's brought the franchise back with Fatal Fury City of the Wolves after more than 2 decades away, and the company has also started re-releasing classic Fatal Fury titles with modern online features. Naturally, those moves kind of lead fans to wonder whether a full remake of one of the older games could eventually happen or not. However, nothing has officially been confirmed. If it ever does happen, though, this feels like one of those games that doesn't need to become something completely different. It just simply deserves to be back or look the way people remember it. That's a funny thing about older arcade games. Memory has a habit of making them feel larger than they actually were. The stages seemed enormous, the animations looked smoother than they really were, every special move felt explosive. Going back today, you can still appreciate the brilliant design, but it's impossible not to imagine what those same battles could look like with modern technology behind them. I don't know, picture walking into South Town just as evening begins setting over a city, neon lights all slowly lighting up the streets while people gathering around outdoor markets, the restaurants, subway entrances, and crowded sidewalks. Somewhere nearby, then, you hear the familiar sounds of a tournament beginning. Fighters aren't standing on floating platforms surrounded by effects, they're actually competing inside places that feel connected to the city itself. A harbor filled with cargo ships, a rooftop overlooking downtown, a crowded boxing gym, a quiet temple sitting in some high above the skyline. Every arena tells its own story before the first punch is ever thrown. Considering those, it's the kind of atmosphere a remake should chase. One thing Fatal Fury 2 always understood was that personality mattered just as much as mechanics. Terry wasn't memorable because of complicated cutscenes, he was memorable because every move, every animation, and every victory pose instantly told players exactly who he was. The same applied to Mai, to Andy, to Joe, Kim, Wolfgang, and the rest of the cast as well, of course. So a remake shouldn't redesign those characters until they become unrecognizable. It should simply bring the personalities forward using today's animation technology while keeping everything fans already love about them. And of course, the fighting itself should remain pretty fast, readable, satisfying. Modern games sometimes fall into the trap of filling every attack with massive visual effects until it's just difficult to understand what's actually happening there. Fatal Fury, though, has never really needed that. The impact here comes from timing, spacing, smart movement, knowing exactly when to commit. Every punch should feel heavy, every kick should carry momentum, every successful counter should immediately swing the rhythm of the match without drowning the scream in some unnecessary bunch of different effects. Animation could quietly become one of the remake's biggest strengths, in fact. Imagine Terry now adjusting his gloves before the fight begins, Mai's fans moving naturally as she shifts her stance, or even Joe just bouncing lightly across the stage before launching forward with some unnatural speed. Small details like these don't change gameplay, but they make every fighter feel alive instead of just simply standing in idle different poses waiting for the round to begin. The stages deserve just as much attention. Instead of functioning as static background, they should feel like real locations filled with subtle different movements, crowds reacting to dramatic moments, weather changes throughout the longer matches, flags move with the wind, distant traffic continues flowing through South Town there while waves gently strike some nearby dock. None of these things should distract from the fight, they simply remind players that the world continues existing around them. Music, in fact, has always been one of the franchise's greatest strengths, and this remake would have an incredible opportunity to celebrate it. The original soundtrack still holds up remarkably well, but hearing those familiar melodies reimagined with live instruments while preserving their unmistakable energy would instantly reconnect longtime fans with the arcade days that made the series famous. In fact, another area where modern technology could make a genuine difference is online play now. Fighting games live and die by the multiplayer experiences nowadays, and SNK clearly understands that. Recent releases have embraced rollback netcode, modern online features, proving that competitive play remains one of the company's biggest priorities. So obviously a Fatal Fury 2 remake deserves the same treatment from day one, basically allowing both veterans and newcomers to enjoy some smooth online match without compromising the precision that fighting games really demand there. Training modes could also become much deeper without changing the spirit of the original game here. New players learn advanced mechanics through practical demonstrations instead of overwhelming tutorials, while experienced competitors gain access to detailed frame data, hitbox viewers, combo recording looks, online replay analysis, etc. Everything exists to help players improve naturally instead of making the game feel like intimidating. One thing that absolutely shouldn't change is accessibility. Fatal Fury has always been easy to understand even if mastering it takes years. But you don't need complicated systems stacked on top of one another before having fun. Like, pick a character that looks interesting, learn a few special moves, jump into a match, slowly improve every time you play. That's one of the reasons these older fighting games continue attracting new fans decades later. And of course, well, visually the remake doesn't need to abandon its roots either. A modern 2.5-dimensional presentation similar to today's best fighting games would allow the original character designs to remain recognizable, while giving every punch, every dodge, throw, and special attack have a much greater impact. The goal shouldn't be realism, of course, the goal should be preserving the bold, colorful style that has always separated SNK's fighters from everybody else's. Maybe that's why people continue hoping this remake eventually becomes real? It's not because Fatal Fury 2 was unfinished or whatever, it's just because it represents one of the defining moments in arcade fighting history. Many players would love to see that history introduced to a new generation without losing the personality that made it special in the first place. So I don't know. Whether SNK ever decides to remake it remains completely unknown right now. The company's attention is understandably focused on expanding the future of the franchise through City of the Wolves, but if the day ever comes when they decide to revisit one of the games that helped build the franchise, Fatal Fury 2 obviously would make an incredibly strong choice here. Some classics survive because people respect them, others survive because people genuinely miss playing them. Fatal Fury 2 has managed to do both for more than 30 years, and that's probably the strongest argument any remake could basically ever ask for.